And welcome to the Radio Podcast. We're playing some games. We talked about a bunch of... We played a bunch of games, and we're going to talk about them. I got to flip the verbs in those statements.
Oh my god.
Actually, we're putting these reviews out before we've touched a single one of them.
Yeah, we haven't played any of these games, actually. We're
Real
one of those types of
professional here.
reviewers now.
Pure speculation based on the box art. You got this on lock.
Yep.
That would still be more
It'd
commentary.
be a fun video.
Than some videos I've seen.
All right, well, now that we're truly off the rails already, we're talking about some games that we've been playing last month. We do this every month or two. We got a bunch of stuff to chat about, so let's jump in.
And
we got Wyatt, Alex, and I in.
We're gonna see if we can get through these games without me dying on camera. So that
yeah, Wyatt's cozied up to protect himself from the sickness.
It's already here. I'm containing the sickness from the rest of the world.
Yeah,
trying to protect it.
Got to make it not as bad for everyone else. Okay, so all four of us pick a game generally. We don't have our other Alex here today. He is fighting off a migraine and hopefully a valiant battle. But he picked Rogue Trader, Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. And I think I'm the only other one here who typically enjoys CRPGs. Excepting, I think, Baldur's Gate. I think all of us like Baldur's Gate. But
I haven't played enough of it. But
I played many an Owlcat CRPG before Rogue Trader. So we're going to jump in with Rogue Trader discussion. And I think I know what you are probably going to say for a lot of this. Well, so I just want to start off with a temperature check.
I haven't checked my temperature recently. It was fine last I checked. But I don't know, I might have climbed up.
Do you have to be a fan of Warhammer or know anything about the world of the series to enjoy this? Because that's the vibe that I was getting.
I don't think so. I feel like it explains itself well enough. It's got like the hyperlink things to kind of fill you in on certain information.
And for those who don't know what Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is, because we've just started spouting words at them. It's by Owlcat Games, the same team that made the Pathfinder CRPGs. Generally very well regarded. This is their Warhammer 40k game. It's using their own sort of rule system. It is not an existing RPG. I think it's loosely based on the Rogue Trader rule set, which is a old Warhammer 40k kind of role-playing game that you can play. But yeah, it's a Owlcat CRPG, basically turn-based, not real-time like their other games. All the other games also have turn-based options. And very much a different sort of design to the others, or setting as well, because the rest of their games are very fantasy, and this is leaning hard into grimdark sci-fi. So,
okay, well, let's get my temperature check out of the way.
Yeah.
So, there's just two things I want to say, because I want to be as non-confrontational about this as possible. I played about an hour. And the reason I didn't continue is twofold. One, I'm not the biggest CRPG person. I feel like if I find the right one, I could convert, but I haven't found my entry point yet.
You need sci-fi Baldur's Gate, I think.
I think I need a sci-fi Baldur's Gate. This is not it. I'm not, which leads me into my second thing. I'm just not a grimdark person. It's not that I personally hate like Warhammer as a setting or anything. Grimdark just does not do it for me. I think there's a lot of cool concepts. I love the idea that the world is so huge that entire planets are dedicated to one thing. I think that's pretty interesting. Pieces of individual lore I think are kind of neat, but in terms of immersing myself into the setting, it just doesn't do much for me. So I played about an hour, and I kind of got the feeling that I wasn't going to be super into it. Not because I think the game itself is bad by any stretch of the imagination. I just knew setting and genre just weren't my thing, but I think people who are into Warhammer and into CRPGs are probably pretty happy with it, I would say.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty reasonable non-confrontational touch. I also played just a little over, I think, an hour and a half of this one, and that's not because I wasn't having fun. It's because I just don't have time for a CRPG right now. I want to finish, because I'm still playing through their old... not they're old, it's still a recent game, but Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, which is by the same studio, and I really, really like. Wrath of the Righteous is one of my favorite CRPGs. It's probably, for me, second next to Baldur's Gate, but
I did play a bit more of Wrath of the Righteous because I did play Pathfinder in high school, so I have a bit more of a connection to that setting. But yeah, again, CRPGs just not my flavor until I find the right one.
Yeah, I do think there's a lot of things I did really like about this one. I like the character creation because I think it's like for a CRPG character creation, it's way snappier than I was expecting because of the other.
A D&D mini.
Yeah, like it's almost like playing with Hero Forge or something compared to what Owlcat normally does in their CRPGs, which is this crazy like nonsense web of multi-classing and whatnot that you have to navigate. And because I think this is their own system and they kind of make you pick a base class and it's not that crazy complicated at first, and then they all kind of go to Exemplar, it feels like it's relatively easy to get a handle on how to make a character that feels functional.
I will say it there's something about the UI, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, makes it look more complicated than it actually is.
I think that's the Warhammer 40k isms.
Yeah.
Then I just don't really like 40k. It all feels way too overwhelming UI wise.
I mean, it's kind of 40k's thing is like very maximalist. So,
which I don't. That's not the part of that I really hate about it. But I would say the one thing that I'm not a huge fan of with the character creation is the portraits drove me fucking insane. Because they let you, they give you a decent amount of options for your character. I think.
Oh yeah, and then there's just those few preset.
You know, it's not like the best character creator I've ever seen, but it's solid enough, I guess. But then they just give you this like limited amount of like pre-made portraits. So if you made a character like I did that doesn't fit with any of the portraits, or you don't have like a background or an archetype or whatever that doesn't fit any of those portraits, it just don't get anything that matches, and it drove me insane. I was like, just have a little screenshot of your character model. It's fine. Or like a generic, like kind of like what Dragon Age Inquisition did, where it just kind of gave you the like the hand of the chosen or whatever of the Inquisitor. Like that's fine. That doesn't bother me.
I'm actually gonna hard disagree with you on this one. Okay. This is a classic like CRPG thing from older games. Newer stuff tends to maybe do it. I'd say it's like a 50-50 shot if you get this, or if you get a really janky screenshot of a 3D model. That's also very common. I think I vastly prefer the portrait, and the handy thing with the portraits is if you, instead of starting from character creation where you're like making your own things, which this is what the game does by default, is it throws you to portrait selection first. Pick your portrait first. Don't pick your portrait second, because it will autofill the rest of the character to look like the portrait if you do that. So it does that, and that's kind of how you're meant to, if you want to roll with those portrait characters. But the other thing, you can upload your own portraits. So you can like make whatever art you want and throw it in a folder on your computer and they're in the portraits menu.
Okay, that's cool.
So there's tons of like hand-drawn portraits people have done.
That's cool. I do think if you're going to go the route of like basing your character off the portrait that you pick, I feel like that weirdly limits the character creation in a way that I'm not a huge fan of personally. But I do think the ability to upload your own portraits is genuinely really cool.
It was fun until I accidentally reset my character 3 times.
Okay, well that's on you.
I hate to say it, Alex, but that is a person.
Okay. It's still my experience with the game. I'm easily confused by its UI, and it keeps screwing with me in a way that I do not appreciate.
I don't know how I can get once. I don't know how it happened 2 more times. That's what I'm wondering.
Also, I think this is the very first game that oh my god, because I started playing this game on controller, and I was like, wow, this would be much better on mouse and keyboard.
It's a CRPG.
The one time I try controller, I'm wrong.
No, I'm always action games controller, anything that involves like CRPG or first person stuff, PC, keyboard, mouse.
My first experience playing Baldur's Gate was on a PS5 with my girlfriend, and I was like, man, I'm sure they're trying their best with the controller, but I can like already.
Baldur's Gate is like the best version of controller for a CRPG, and it's still bad. Like,
they tried their hardest. They tried their hardest. They really did.
Actually, I do think Rogue Trader has a pretty decent version of it. for controller. Like, I don't think it's the
Where's this
worst.
go?
I think mostly just because Rogue Trader's not like crazy complicated compared to your average Owlcat CRPG. You generally have less abilities. You have less like crazy things that you're worried about. Not to say there's not really cool stuff. There's a lot of fun stuff, especially when you get the Psyker Party member who has like cool abilities that she can use if you didn't pick that. But yeah, I think this is a game that you kind of know what you're getting into when you start to play it. I don't think it's going to change anyone's minds if they're not already a fan of CRPGs. I also think the Warhammer isms might pull people away if they're not into that. Though to say that, it's also a draw for certain people, right? Like if you like Grimdark and you like Warhammer, this is absolutely going to be great for you. If you're not the biggest fan, like Wyatt mentioned, you're going to be dealing with a lot of grim darkness, and I think that's going to be
Not
a pretty...
my thing.
Yeah, it's like it's very depressing all the time, kind of. Like everything's a little larger than life. There's always like 10 titles next to someone's name.
There's definitely like a place for that. Like I don't want it to seem like I think that Grimdark is bad, because I love that it's there, that it exists. It's just not something that I'm super into. Again, I
not
think
necessarily my
there's a lot of
genre
surface
of
level
choice.
details. Yeah, there's a lot of surface level details that are neat, but when it comes to like playing a game or reading a book or whatever it is, and I'm trying to like immerse myself and get connected in this world, I really don't. It's just not my thing.
Yeah, I think that's very fair. Yeah, I'll continue just saying the basic stuff. I did like the first hour and a half, 2 hours that I played. I think the thing that's most enticing to me about this game is all the ship management stuff, which unfortunately is just not this early in the game. Like, I think we would have had to play a fair bit more, because there is a whole space combat system in this. There's, like, naval battles in your ship.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, if I wasn't having a hard time already, that would be my hard stop.
To my understanding, they're much easier than the on-foot battles. Like, they're not as, like, complicated. It's mostly... because you can only you move with, like, a physics of your ship, so you have to keep moving in a direction. You've got, like, your cannons on different sides and whatnot. So to my understanding, it's a little bit less intensive than the normal combat, which is normal for Owlcat. They tend to have like a side system in all their games, and Pathfinder Kingmaker, it was kingdom management, and Wrath of the Righteous, it's like army fights. In this one, it's the ship stuff, which yeah, I like all the stuff here. I think a lot of people will enjoy this, but it doesn't do anything that to me would signal that if you don't already like this genre, you're gonna like it, or it's gonna convert you. I think one exception is if you like tactics games. This one has a turn-based combat system that is more reminiscent of something like XCOM than it is of a traditional CRPG. So if you don't like the real-time combat system that a lot of CRPGs go, like say you like Baldur's Gate but you don't like the other Pathfinder games, you might like this because it is like a cool turn-based system.
Was it Wasteland 3 that we played that kind of has a similar system as well?
I really like Wasteland 3's combat.
It feels like a heavier version of something like a tactics RPG.
Totally.
Which I think is very neat. And the combat system was definitely interesting, but I don't think that would be enough to drag me through the other parts of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. I believe this is either fully voice acted or very close to fully voice acted. I think it's fully voice acted when you're in like an actual dialogue window. I do think there's a couple voice actors that do a really, really good job at the start, and I hope it keeps up that quality the whole time. Because the gist of the start of this is, as you would expect in a grimdark game, you immediately get betrayed, and the voice actor for that character is really good. I think does a good job of selling everything.
As was what's her name with a million different titles?
Yeah, Lady Theodora something or other with 8 million titles.
Was that
of the House of von Karstein.
She had a great voice actor as well. Yeah, all around very good. A lot of like appropriate for the setting, like a little over the top with like just it juiced with a bunch of gravitas, like over the top gravitas, which I think for this setting works really well.
Speaking of over the top gravitas, the audio and the music especially is really good.
I will say, of all, one thing that's remained constant in all of these 40K games that I've played, the music kicks so much ass.
Dude, so many composers are afraid of organs, and they're the best part.
Dude, organs are like the best part of like an epic score, okay? If Hans Zimmer can figure it out, then the rest of you can.
Organs and
alright?
Gregorian chants really start sending me into a
It's
spiral with
sick! Oh, it's amazing.
music, and I think this game does stellar with that. There's a couple gripes I have from the start that like are just kind of clunky owl cat things that I feel like they did better in the Pathfinder games, and they kind of walked back a little bit here. The tutorial, I outfitted a character for melee because I went, I want to do classic like the chain sword and the pistol. So I was like, okay, I'll put all my stuff into like melee attacks at the start, and then maybe if I like using the guns, I'll spec into that later. But the first 2 fights of the game, all you have is a pistol. And you have no other extra stuff, and because of the way that I'd spec my character, I missed every single shot every time.
Yeah. What classes did you guys start as?
I went Astra Militarum Warrior.
Yeah. What was it? I forget what it was called. It was like the scoundrel or the rogue type thing.
Oh, that's what I went with as well. Yeah.
Even I found it. I never hit anything in either the first little thing or the first, I guess, like actual tutorial battle after the first quote unquote combat scene. I got stuck in that for the entire hour that I played. I couldn't get past that first battle.
Oh, Alex.
I kept on dying.
You?
I just kept on dying constantly. No matter how, it's either everyone else would die around me and get horrible rolls, or I'd like run and hide in the corner and just get absolutely shit on.
What does this always
I
happen
never
to
have
you?
a good time when we play these for this specific
Anything
show.
where there's like an RNG thing, you always get absolutely shafted at the start.
If I have any luck with computers, it's bad luck. This is a well-known fact.
That's fascinating to me because I couldn't hit a single thing, and the allies just completely obliterated all of the guys that came in.
I did
to start the
spec
fight.
into ranged. The way it worked out is I was spec into ranged and melee fairly equally. And so I got most of my hits in. I did find it interesting because like you can spec into melee like what Ryan did, but specifically for the servitor, the first enemy, they were like, "Oh, keep your distance, don't get up close to it." It's like, well, what about melee builds?
Well, you don't have a melee weapon at that point. You straight up don't, because
sucks for melee-based characters.
Yeah,
and I will say I found that out because I ran directly into the face of them and then tried to pull out a pistol and then missed their face because I realized I have no melee weapon. Which
they just one-shot everything with their stupid chainsaw hands.
Well, they're supposed to one-shot the normal guys. They're there for fodder. It's grimdark.
It was there for setting, basically.
Yeah. Then the next fight after that, I think I hit like one person, but the allies still mopped everyone up. Which I assume that's the fight that you mean you got locked in, Alex.
Are you talking about the very first one where it's just those 2 guys coming at you?
No, the one after that.
Okay, that's what I thought you were stuck on, and I was like,
No, I made it past that because I was assuming you're supposed to fail and he's just supposed to shoot them for you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of
the other one.
There,
everyone was rolling bad, even the computer, except the enemies on the computer. No,
that's
everyone
crazy.
who was on my side got their shit kicked in.
That's fucked up.
Did they die? Like, is it possible for them to die in that fight? Because they show up in a cutscene later. So I'm just fascinated if it's mathematically possible for them to get killed.
Are you talking about the guy in the blue jacket who meets you first?
Not that guy, no, because he's not in that fight.
He's little fuck.
I know Abelard is the other guy that you're with in that second fight. And yeah, he shows up a little bit later, so I assume he can't die in that fight. But
well, yeah, he's the buff melee guy who was with the Countess, right?
Buff melee guy who parries a bunch.
Yeah, they just ran past him and killed me.
Nice.
He was not being a good wall.
Unfortunate. But I will say, once I actually got melee weapons, which was the third fight, which I have another problem with, because this fight is after like a cool dialogue bit that I actually really liked, where it's like, basically you're being compelled to open this door and you can try to resist and get implanted with a demon parasite, or you can capitulate and do it and not get implanted with a demon parasite. I did the grizzled military veteran, so of course I resisted to the end, which meant I now have a warped demon parasite in me, which is very funny. Because it that affected a bunch of conversation choices later on, where I'm like, I can feel this weird brain parasite in my body, basically, which is very cool. I like that a lot. But right after that, you meet back up with Abelard, and you can start fighting a bunch of people that come in. But what the game doesn't tell you, it gives you a bunch of gear, and it tells you to open your inventory. So I do that, I go in my inventory, and I'm like, okay, well, I'll equip the weapon they gave me, because they finally gave me a melee weapon. But instead of letting me continue to look at the inventory and put the rest of the gear that they gave me on, the game immediately starts a fight as soon as you equip the melee weapon.
Oh, God.
So I was immediately in another fight with no armor in the middle of that. And that's just annoying. It's like, I wish they had just waited until I closed that menu to track that, and not have just done it as soon as I equipped one of the things, I assume. Yeah, it's just a couple of little things like that. I assume that that's obviously not a problem past the start. So I hope it gets better. Yeah, I don't really intend to keep playing this right now. I do think I will come back to it for sure, because I liked a lot of what was going on. I am generally a fan of the 40k stuff, although I don't tend to like when they get super grimdark. And the lucky thing about this being about rogue traders is it probably won't get super grimdark compared to the rest of 40k. So yeah, that's basically my take. I assume, Alex, it seems like you really had a bad time.
Oh yeah, bounced off this like a let's see, what's a good analogy here? Like a delicate glass vase on a brick wall.
Nice. Nice and shattered. Wyatt, you planning on coming back to Rogue Trader anytime soon?
No, not because I'm a delicate vase or anything. Are
you a vase?
I'm an indifferent sponge being thrown at the wall. I bounce off of it gracefully, without
make a nice wedge.
without affecting the wall or myself in any way, and I move on with my life.
It's a completely dry sponge that hits a brick wall and just bounces away.
Completely indifferent, not for me.
All right. Well, after Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader and all of that discussion, we're going to move on to Clone Drone in the Danger Zone, because Wyatt's been hinting at things, and I'm fascinated.
How have you... Ryan and I feel like we played a good deal of this. We played...
Alex, you've got to give the intro of the game first.
Okay, so Clone Drone in the Danger Zone looks like just this fun... It's technically voxel, right?
Yeah, it's like voxel physics-based.
Voxel physics-based combat stuff where you can cut off the limbs of your robot adversaries, which I thought sounded fun. And it's just what I assumed and looked like a bunch of different little sandboxy arenas to do that in. But Wyatt here is telling me that there is story?
So, okay, unless there's been some massive miscommunication.
I'll frame with what Alex and I did, because we played this game together.
That's a good place to start.
We started by playing a fair amount of the story mode, I think both of us, which is kind of like a roguelike thing where you die and you restart.
They just give you different human names. There's like this, the human in the robot body. Oh, if they die, the human is dead. Haha.
Yep. I get to bit where there's like an emperor and there's a bunch of stuff like that going on, but we were both in that arena mode. And that we played that for maybe like an hour, and then Alex and I hopped in a call like, well, we should try the multiplayer, because it seems like this game has a lot of fun multiplayer. So then we spent the next hour and a half playing multiplayer stuff, which was very fun, with the caveat that I really wish there's a duel mode, and the duel mode is supposed to have a setting where when you die, you get an upgrade, like the arena mode.
I don't know why that wasn't working.
And neither Alex and I could figure this out. This wasn't like a tech problem on our ends. We were in the private duel, and we had that setting on, and it just never worked. We were just constantly resetting.
If we got some more people for their little battle royale thingy, if it was not just
which was it was just a shame, because we were playing that mode, and we could only ever play it as regular, no kick, basic one sword robot with no other abilities or keys or whatnot, which was really disappointing, because I think the kick and whatnot makes it a lot more fun, and the other weapons are really fun. We played a bunch of the pseudo battle royale mode, which we were only able to play with 2 players because we were the only ones playing at the time. It's still very fun. It just I wish there was a way to force start it, because it has like a 90-second wait timer where it'll try to wait for more players, but we were in a private match, and so it wouldn't start until that timer was up, which just meant we were like sitting there for most of our playtime. I wish there was a way to just skip that, and from what I could find, there wasn't. Just a lot of little stuff like that where I just wish there were more options in the multiplayer stuff, almost like gang beasts or party animals, which we played a ton before.
Also, we should probably explain how the combat system works a little bit.
Yeah, you have like cool cutting things.
Which is
there's directional cutting based on how you move. That's right.
Did you guys only use swords?
No, there's swords, there's spears, there's the hammer.
Okay.
Well, spear and shield.
But basically, whatever direction you move in, kind of dictates the direction of your swing. So if you're strafing left or right, you do a side swing. If you're moving forward or backwards, you do a like a top down.
Bow and arrow, but the upgrades for the bow and arrow are very cool because they're like increasing the width of the arrowhead, so you can like move to cutting entire limbs off with it instead of it being just like a piercing thing, which is really cool. There's lots of fun enemies. There's like cool spider bots and stuff. We found flaming lava velociraptors that we were fighting.
Those are crazy.
That was really fun.
The brawlers later on, those are cool, until we got to that one level where it was only them, and there were all those jump pads in the back of the arena that they instantly hit you into.
Yeah, so we did the multiplayer. I think this was just like the endless mode, because I don't think you could do the multiplayer story. Where Alex and I played that, and we almost completed it. I think we were maybe like.
And you're still in the arena where like you're brought up.
You're in arenas, yes. But we saw tons of enemies that we didn't see in the regular story mode. There were like special spider bots and stuff. There was tons of like flame velociraptor riders and stuff like that.
Yeah, there was one where there's a giant statue of a chicken that you can climb. There is one where it's like a tower with these like weird multi levels, and you need to be careful where you step. Then there was the monk gauntlet. Yeah,
there was the monk gauntlet. We've got through like 3 monk gauntlet levels, fine. And then there was one that if you get knocked at all, there's jump pads on every side of you that will launch you into lava and kill you. That one was just like, I don't know how we would have beaten that at that point. I think we would have had to just like perfectly play everything. And that did not happen. So that was where we stopped. But that was like I think it was like the 30th or 40th stage.
Yeah, we got really far. I was very impressed with it. Man, that armor really comes in handy.
Yeah. All right, Wyatt. Now it's your turn.
So, you guys never left the arena.
Nope.
Right? Okay.
Aside for the battle royale.
There's an upgrade thing underneath it. Is that what you're talking?
No.
What?
Half of the story mode doesn't even take place on the arena. Nay, half the story mode doesn't even take place on that planet. Here's what happens.
What are you talking about?
Let me explain. I'm going to go, not blow by blow, but I'm going to talk you through this a little bit. So there's a certain point, I died a couple times, right? I just played the story mode. I didn't do any of the multiplayer stuff or anything like that. You die a couple times. There's the little randomized names because it's humans that are being uploaded into these robots. The story is you're a human's consciousness being shoved into a robot, and then you fight in gladiatorial combat, and then you get upgrades to try and survive, and eventually you die, and then you're replaced by another random person. If you get far enough in the story mode, a fucking AI woman comes out of nowhere and says like, hey, when the trash bots come out to drag all of the things, there's that red kind of like door way in the back where the robots come from, right? I'm going to lower the shields. You jump down into the garbage chute. So you run, you jump into the garbage chute, you like pass by some buzzsaws, and then you basically leave the arena and hop off and then float away to like mingle with the other people. And then the game just starts up again. And they act like it happened. No. I'm going to keep going. I'm not done yet.
How long were you playing before this happened?
I only played this game for like 2 hours, 2.5 hours, something like that. So then you play again. This time you have the sledgehammer unlocked. I thought it was just the sword. Again, you're going through it. Sometimes you die, whatever. Mm-hmm. You eventually there comes a point again where you reach a certain point, the trash bots come down and pick you up, drag you way above the arena, and you fly over this giant robot city, and you're dropped down into this random building, where then you land, you look around, and then another robot is about to come up and attack you, and you realize it was the robot that was saved the first time, and you two are now working together in order to stop the invasion of the humans and trying to save all the humans. So then, I'm just going to keep going. Spoilers ahead for this game. So then the AI lady is like, oh, I'm going to upload you into some random worker bots in this building, and you need to reach to the top of this building in order to like shut down communications or whatever. So then it's basically like a heist. You like get into this building, and then the other person that survived is there as an AI buddy that you can swap to. And before you start this mission, you can spec them out. You can completely respec all of their abilities. So you can have one be really focused on the bow, or have another one be really focused on like melee, that kind of thing. And then you clear
some army
all
of two shit.
Yes, it's amazing. So then you're going through this entire like office, like clearing out all of these enemies and trying to get to the top. And then what eventually happens is you run into like the main bad guy. And then he's like, "Oh, these two losers, we're gonna go to Earth, and we're gonna like harvest all of the humans for our gladiatorial games." One of them dies permanently, and then it seems like both of them die, and it seems like the AI lady that helped you also dies. But last minute, she uploads your consciousness in a way where it's like a virus. So when you die, you can then affect other enemy combatants. So if you die, your consciousness is just ripped to another enemy robot, and you keep fighting. It's
wild.
Crazy. It's insane. And then you're like shot off into a spaceship, and then you fight through like spaceships with like zero gravity bits, or like stuff where you're like locked down to the floor. There's a bit where you're
the hell?
There's a bit where you're shoved out of an airlock and you fly all the way over to another ship. It's amazing. It's amazing. And it goes so unnecessarily hard the whole time. You're like trying desperately to take down all of these ships, and then what happens is your character dies again, but then last minute you're saved by the other robot that you thought died earlier. He's back, and he's here to help you out in this epic fucking save. And then just when you thought it couldn't get any crazier, you take control of one of the ships with your little virus, because there's also missions where it's like a hacking mission where you like go into where you hack into the fucking thing and you do more combat, but it's in like a cyberspace. You control the whole ship, and then it turns into a space combat game where you fly around on a ship with missiles that you have to use to take down shields and then shoot them with your lasers.
I feel like you're gaslighting us.
Wyatt, are you sure you played the same game?
Yes, I'm pretty sure. It's amazing. And then there's a giant boss fight at the end where like there's like tons of enemies. I need to re-download
Clone Drone.
It's amazing.
What the fuck is this?
It's amazing. It goes so hard, and the music is
I
going
think
off and everything.
Alex and I had only ever heard of this game from YouTubers playing it, so I think we assumed it was a multiplayer
I hadn't heard of
thing.
This game from that before. I just saw it in Game Pass.
That's how I'd heard of it, so I assumed like the multiplayer was the big draw. So I was like, oh yeah, let's do multiplayer. Seems like you actually buy this for the campaign, not the multiplayer.
It's amazing. It's great. It's
all right. Well,
so fucking cool.
I genuinely cannot believe we missed that somehow.
I mean, we just didn't play the campaign. We were doing multiplayer the whole time.
I was playing the campaign for an hour after we played a few days ago.
There was part of me that didn't want to spoil it for you guys because I wanted you to keep playing. But also, I am relishing the reactions right now. It was totally.
Well, now I'm going to keep playing it. So
yeah, oh my god,
it goes so unnecessarily hard. It's great.
How did we missed that?
Well, we missed it because we didn't play that mode.
I don't think you played.
Okay, fine. How did I miss that? Because I made sure to play the story node for like an hour the next day.
And you all were playing on normal difficulty, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay.
I didn't even know there was difficulty options. I think it was whatever was going.
I need to like stream this to you guys after we end this discussion, just to like, just
No,
to
I'm gonna
make
end up
sure
playing it now.
this wasn't some like cold induced fever dream.
Well, this because I was hitting a point with Clone Drone where like I had a good like 3 hours of fun out of Alex and I just messing around essentially and having fun in multiplayer.
That was it.
And doing co-op stuff, but I kind of figured that was largely it. Like, it seemed like the story didn't go anywhere in the, like, 45 minutes to an hour that I played.
How wrong you fucking were, my friends.
Well,
it like gets anime levels of fucking craziness sometimes.
Oh my God.
It's amazing.
That's wild. Yeah, that's super cool. It's gonna make me probably finish this game very soon, I think.
It's kind of wild. And the entire time I was like, oh, are they just trolling us and this is going to end up being more of the simulation? Or like the arena or whatever. It wasn't. It just ended. And then the credits rolled and I was like, oh.
I just had a good time.
Awesome. That's kind of awesome.
Yeah, I guess I got to finish this one. That's super cool.
I will say what kind of ruined it for me, and I know that this is kind of a joke. You're not supposed to take this game too seriously. I would have loved during all of these like crazy sequences. I would have loved some actual like over the top, real voice acting with like a robotic filter rather than the AI voices they ended up using.
Yeah.
And I get it's kind of a joke, especially
it's like text to speech.
It's
like this is one of the older games that we're looking at.
It's like 2017, I think, is when
it's not the equivalent of the
it released in 2021, but I believe it was in early access for a while.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. I do kind of wish we had like actual like really just like over the top voice acting with like a robotic filter on it rather than like because again, I'm not trying to take it too seriously when I want really like amazing voice acting. I just want something that more fits the insanity that's happening on screen.
The level of craziness that's going on just in general. Yeah, that's super cool.
Yeah. The only other complaints is that for all the crazy shit that's happening, there isn't a ton of variety. I feel like they could have.
That's really my biggest sort of feeling with it.
They could have pushed the level design a lot more because they have.
That's why the battle royale levels were really cool because they use that stuff. They're like we say battle royale. It's not like full battle royale. It's like I think like 5 to 10 players kind of. There's a bunch of platforms. There's like little event areas, and there's events like give you buffs. There's ones where you can like get the Velociraptor to ride, and stuff like that. That were really fun.
One of the things you could hack, by the way. If you died by the Velociraptor, you could just take over the Velociraptor and start fucking people up.
Very cool. Yeah. Man, I wish some more of that stuff showed a little earlier in the story, at least a little bit.
I was having fun just because I wanted to see how deep this rabbit hole went. I wasn't planning on playing it for as long as I did, but I just kept going because I was like, what the fuck is going to happen next? But the level design, I wish was pushed a little bit further. The most you'll get is sometimes you have to kind of walk up a spiral thing. It's really, I feel like with everything they have already in the sandbox, it could have been pushed a little bit more.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, overall, I think this is generally... I mean, we had a good time.
We had a much better time.
Yeah, hard to know with this type of game what you're going to find in different areas. So, I don't know. Seems very cool. I'm now much more motivated to continue playing it. Because I was kind of like, I feel like I've seen everything between what we played and whatnot.
You did not.
But yeah, it seems like there's some very cool stuff still waiting in the wings.
That was a wild afternoon. That was a wild afternoon.
All right, Alex, any other thoughts about Clone Drone?
I guess I'm gonna be playing it some more.
Got more to play.
That sounds fun.
Mode. I didn't get nearly as many rounds in as you guys did for like the story mode because it starts to kind of develop after a while. But I don't know.
All right.
Because I was a little worried that was all that it was the arena mode, which is some like really lame commentary, and I was like, oh.
That's exactly
that's what I was feeling, which is why Alex and I went to multiplayer.
Yeah.
Well, then I died for the first time, and there's this AI lady that showed up out of nowhere, and I was like...
For the first time? That happened the first time you died.
No, well, not the first time I died. Sorry. The first time I, like, made it to a certain point. where it was like the last stage, and then this lady was like, "Hey, I'm gonna drop the thing, and you move on." And I was like, "What is this? What's going on here?" And then it just kind of unraveled from there.
Spiraled.
Yeah.
All right.
Wow.
Well, Alex, what's your next game pick?
My next game. So I messaged you this. Can I make that the pick since both of us has already played it and you've kind of
I
completed
mean, yes, you can. Nobody will stop you.
Oh, that'll give me a really bad excuse to play more of this game. I didn't need another excuse to. Yeah, let's do that. My Game Pass game for this month is Blueprints.
All right.
Blueprints.
I cannot wait to talk about this game.
Blueprints. I have heard about this.
Yes. For your knowledge, Wyatt, I have already finished.
Right. Fantastic.
You got so lucky with your rolls.
Okay. Let's jump into Eternal Strands next. Because I think this is going to be a contentious one. And I actually think both of our last games are going to be a little contentious. Not because either of them is bad, to be very clear. I think they're both very specific in what they're aiming for. Eternal Strands is a third-person action game with a lot of like Dragon's Dogma DNA. I think mixed with a little bit of like Monster Hunter material collecting and crafting and whatnot.
With like a little bit of Breath of the Wild in there.
A little bit of like Breath of the Wild, and honestly, I'm gonna say a set of words that you're really not gonna like, Wyatt. A little bit of Genshin Impact in how the abilities work.
I'm not against that inherently.
This is an insane conglomeration of titles we're putting into this game.
This is the perfect example of like one of my favorite things is when someone takes 2 or even like 6 different genres of games.
In this case, 6, yeah.
And just smushes them together. And it doesn't always turn out well, but it's fascinating. And sometimes leads to some really cool experiences that you're not going to get anywhere else.
Yeah. And some cool stuff about this. So this is the first game by Yellow Brick Games, which is a bunch of industry vets that split off and formed a studio. The head of this studio is Mike Laidlaw, who was the director of, or the lead designer for Dragon Age Origins, a game that both Wyatt and I have talked quite a lot about and really like. So I think there's a lot of like really good design behind this game. My biggest sort of issue with this, and I think this is a thing you'll find repeated in a lot of like talks about this game, there's this weird kind of split focus between story and gameplay here in a way that I really wish was more integrated with the game happening. Like, I really wish a lot of these cutscenes were more in the game and like I had control of things while they were going on. Because otherwise they're basically just visual novel scenes, and they're very pretty. The character art is phenomenal. The writing is really good. But I also think the writing suffers a little bit from being a little milk toasty. It's a bit.
Yeah. And dare I say it, I hate it when people use this, but I think it kind of applies here. It feels a little bit modern-y, like kind of bordering on that kind of like, I don't want to say it's Marvel writing, but it has a lot of that like jokey, quippy kind of stuff.
It has a bit of like the quippiness, and it also has the same thing that is like a character will talk about their problem with another character, and then it will get solved in the next scene.
Yeah.
Like that's a particular pet peeve of mine where like I really wish there was a little bit more in between these to like build on these things.
Let the character action, or let the relationship stew.
Just for a little while. But I don't mean that to sound overly negative. I think it's really not that big of a problem. I think that the real meat of this is combat, but not like combat with little ground people. It's with the big monsters. Where it gets a little Shadow of the Colossus-y, where you can climb things. That Breath of the Wild stuff comes in with the various abilities and magic you have.
That Dragon's Dogma, if you're fighting trolls or cyclopses or things like that.
Yes. And that's where the game really clicked for me. And I think that's what's going to convince me to finish this game. I don't think I'm going to do it right now, but I do think I'm going to be coming back to this to really try and finish it out, because I think the actual monster fights are really, really good and very well designed. It's cool because you like fight each of the monsters once in the story, and then you unlock like a lore document for them, and that will tell you hints on how to defeat them in a special way. and the next time you go back and fight them, they'll be a little bit different and a little bit stronger. And so it'll be like, oh, you have to do this thing to like unveil this magical locus. And when you do that, you can like climb to that and then pull it out, and that will upgrade one of your spells, essentially, or give you material to upgrade your spells, and get new effects. So that was super fun. I think that's the best part of the game. The like meandering side quests I didn't really love. There's like a bunch of side quests to go find a thing just in a random spot, and those seemed like filler. I think the vibe that I kind of get with this game is that it's trying to be longer than it needs to be, in a way.
Alex, I was overwhelmed with how big the first like open zone felt, first and still second time through.
It looks bigger than it actually is.
I did finally get like the basic combat to oh my god, to click. I was having so much trouble working with the bow and like getting the shield.
I don't like the bow.
Like the bow is very hard to use.
Yeah.
I kept forgetting how to be able to block. I kept figuring it out each time, but there was like every time I booted up the game, there was like a readjustment period with some of the buttons don't feel natural.
Yeah, I think the swapping weapons feels weird. I really wish they had like the bow was not a swap weapon, but I can hold the left trigger or something and I pull out the bow.
Yes.
Or something like that, or the left bumper, because I know the triggers are used for other stuff. But yes, that just wound up and I didn't use the bow. That was the solve.
Combat with all those smaller enemies, I think, gets either it feels a little boring or clunky or mean if there's multiples around you and you're not controlling them with ice, which dear god, use all the crowd control you can, because you absolutely need to. But really... I really enjoyed the fighting the big boy, and it's gonna drive me to want to play more.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. It was really frustrating trying to get all of the spells to like work with each other and create cool moments when you're fighting regular enemies, because they never go where you think they're gonna go. They never get caught.
They're very basic, but they're very annoying in the same way. Like,
and this was also a problem with the next game that we're going to talk about. But they also just flat out ignore like stuns, or
there's like one enemy that keeps going invisible and then will back away. It's like this lizard thing.
The invisible
it would keep
one?
going. Yeah, it keeps going invisible, backing away, and then just doesn't get hit by like half of your stuff when you try to use it.
I just spam ice around it to try to lock it in place.
Which is, I think, the solution, but it is just kind of annoying because it does it repeatedly. Like, it doesn't have a timing, an amount of time between where it can't do that again. That's just kind of annoying. Like, it's not particularly hard to deal with, but it's aggravating, and it poisons you when it hits you. So you kind of if you accidentally get hit or you don't see this thing, it's a pretty big punishment. Otherwise, yeah, I think the crafting system's really cool. The way that you create gear is you like combine materials, and then you can replace them later on and whatnot, and that like changes both the color, which is awesome. Love the like material being changed by the gear materials, but it also changes the properties of the stuff, both weapons and armor.
It's very similar to Dragon Age Inquisition's crafting system, which had a very similar
way easier to understand, I think.
Yes, absolutely. It's explained much better, but it's very similar.
Yeah, I think it thought it flowed a lot better.
I like when stats are tied to a cosmetic look. You might not get the coolest thing if you're going for like a mishmash of general things, but I think it makes for some fun intentional or unintentional fashion.
Yeah. I also think the voice acting, like Alex mentioned, is really good for the most of it. Which is impressive considering like this is really a AA game. It's not super big budget, but it feels bigger budget than I think it actually is, which is really cool.
Well, that's also part of the problem, though, is that I feel like for a first-time studio with probably not the biggest budget in the world, they reached so high,
a little far. And you can feel that a bit in like the way the presentation of the story is handled, where it's very like,
it's admirable. I respect it because I feel like the intentions were good.
The actual animated cutscenes are great when they happen, but they're pretty few and far between.
Oh my god!
Yeah, like 2D, they almost look like hand drawn. They're gorgeous, gorgeous.
But most of it's visual novel style. I did get to the second big monster fight in the next zone. So there's another area which was like kind of a swampy area, not like a poison swamp, but a little bit swampy, a little bit like broken forts and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was very cool. The second monster that I fought was like this dragon thing, and it felt very fun to fight that because it would like literally start flying around the map with you on top of it, very Dragon's Dogma Griffin style. But you have like ice powers, and so you can like freeze its wings while it's in flight with you on its back, and
that's awesome.
It will crash into things. You can do tons of things, like it had this fire breath that was really annoying, so you can just put like one little pip of your frost to freeze its mouth, and it can't use that breath while that's happening. And if you just remember to keep doing that, it makes the fight way easier. I thought that one in particular was a lot more fun than the...
Wait, are you talking about is that the dragon that attacks you at the beginning of the game?
No, it's similar type of monster. I think it's the same rig and whatnot, but it's a little bit different. I think it's a little bit less challenging than the first one, because the first one's meant to kind of scare you off. But yeah, that was really cool, and you get cool materials from it that you can use to make really cool weapons, so it kind of cycles back and forth with that. You start messing with like temperature stuff after you get that armor, where you can now like go in hotter areas or colder areas, and that lets you get to places... Yeah, where it gets like almost a little bit Metroid-y, in that you have new areas to access. You get some really fun powers, so cool things that you can do with some of the gravity powers that you get from that first golem fight is you get like the ability to launch a like gravity sphere that just kind of pulls things together. On its own, pretty useful. You can like shoot fire into it and everything will get hit by the fire. But when you undo the gravity sphere, it like pulses everything outwards. You can shoot that at your feet and functionally rocket jump. If you learn the timing for when to release it, you like run above it and then you trigger it and it sends you flying. And that's really funny, because you can like get on top of monsters that way. Lots of cool stuff like that in the game.
But again, a lot of those powers really work. They're on. They really brain. They really work when you're fighting larger monsters. It's the smaller like monsters. It's the smaller enemies that like it all feels so clunky and it doesn't quite come together as well.
Yeah, it honestly I almost feel like this game would have been suited to doing the bigger monsters for the most part.
That would have been fantastic.
Just treat it like Shadow of the Colossus and actually make like a boss rushy style game.
Which is a shame, because I've always liked, it's like if you have I've always been okay with something like Shadow of the Colossus if you have smaller encounters in between that. I've always been okay with that idea, but it always feels like it comes down to like one of them has to get the focus over the other.
Well, I think it's because your combat system needs to be fundamentally different for both. Where like the on-foot combat of Eternal Strands is pretty janky. It's like not... the hit registration feels a little weird. There's no real weight behind your attacks with your weapons, at least the ones that I have now. I think that's like a problem when you're fighting single things, but when you're climbing the back of a giant monster, you don't care. You fully disassociate from that problem because you're like breaking chunks off of a monster.
You're on the back of the big boy.
The magic feels great, so it's never a problem with the magic. It's really just like
stuff.
The actual melee doesn't feel very good. When you're fighting big things, that doesn't matter. When you're fighting small things, it does, and I think that exacerbates the issues that the small monsters have here. It's kind of like, to me, the same problem as Monster Hunter, where like if you ever play a Monster Hunter game, a lot of the old ones require you to go kill like 6 dumb little guys first, but those are the worst mission in the game because none of the weapons are designed to do that. They're like all meant to hit a big target that moves around, and not these little guys that just stand there. And so you end up with like, I'll go to hit them with my gun lance, and it takes me a year to pull the weapon out, and like I do a tiny poke and keep missing them because I can't lock onto them, and a bunch of stuff like that, where it's just like Eternal Strands kind of has that same issue. Aside from that, I did really enjoy it. I think, this is a game with a lot of potential. I really hope a sequel or whatever next project Yellow Brick does.
I hate to break it to you.
Yeah.
This game did not do very well.
I know the game didn't do very well, but it's on a bunch of services. Like, presumably Game Pass Day 1 has helped out. So I'm hoping that Yellow Brick gets a chance to make a next thing. because I think this is a really good first game, better than we tend to see from a lot of studios that have a first game. So I very much hope that they get the chance to make a second game.
A second, and a third, and a fourth.
This is where that argument comes in, where it's like sequels to fantastic games are always exciting because you want to see how they can top how good their first game was. But a lot of the time, it's like I almost more prefer to see sequels to games like this that have so much potential, but for whatever reason couldn't quite reach it the first time around, and they have so much room to make something really interesting and unique.
Yeah.
And that's like,
there's parts where they do reach potential in this. Like that dragon fight with the magic is part of that's like peak video games to me. But then you look at the problem of like, oh well, there's only really I think 9 big monsters in the game. And I think you fight them in different contexts, but the rest of the time of the game is built with these small things that you keep running around to. And it's just not that fun to do the small stuff. Yeah, I really wish they had focused harder in on the boss rushy style, but I think they were kind of split on what they wanted to make here and kind of ended up making 2 different games, is sort of what I feel. So I would love to see a sequel that really hones in on the crazy physics stuff and the boss fights. I feel like that would be super cool. So
yeah, absolutely.
Or even I feel like they could do a cool puzzle game with all the physics-based stuff they have in this one.
I'd also be okay because I feel like you can find a combat system that works for both large monsters and the smaller kind of minion type enemies. Maybe during those moments, some of the rules of combat changes a little bit or something. But
Yeah,
I feel like you can find a middle ground there, because I mean, Dragon's Dogma did for the most part.
They did, yeah. I'd say both small and large enemies feel good in there.
Yeah.
All right, that's it for me. So, does anyone else think they're going to keep playing this?
I want to.
Too many things at the moment, but once I kind of clear out my current queue, I do want to come back to it because I'm very interested to see where it goes, and I like the characters a lot.
Also, to my knowledge, this isn't a super long game, so I feel like it's not that big of a commitment, which will be nice.
If I manage to get to the antechamber in Blueprints, I will play more of this game.
All right. So, Wyatt, I'm going to give you an option for the game I'm going to pick. Because I think you know what I would think you're going to pick. Whether or not that's actually what you're going to pick is up to you. Do you want me to pick that game or to pick a different thing?
I mean, I do have a second one on lock ready to go. I am more curious to see what you have other than what you think I am going to pick.
Okay, because it might be your second pick as well.
It should be very funny.
It's possible.
You guys are so in sync.
I want to play Adamfall.
I knew it.
Huh.
I knew it.
Was that your second pick?
It was between a couple different things, and Adamfall.
Yeah, it was one of them. All right. Well, we're gonna play it regardless, because my first pick was Blueprints, and Alex went and grabbed that one. So.
Hey.
All right, Wyatt. Why don't you tell us about Overthrown?
Let's continue the conversation of potential.
And let's give the blanket statement. Overthrown is the only game in this batch that is game preview / early access.
We do have to make that disclaimer. However, we've talked a lot about early access games in the past. I think more recently, just because they're more prominent now, I would say. This might be, in terms of what I've experienced in early access or game preview, whatever you want to call it, this might be one of the more rougher states that I've seen. And it really comes down to one thing. But before we get to that, let's kind of set the stage here. I think I can best describe Overthrown as if you took a city builder that also had some kind of, I almost want to say RTS mechanics in there.
Oh boy, 2 of my favorite games.
And then you throw the controls of Super Mario Odyssey on top of it. You are this princess or this queen technically, and you have to build up your kingdom again, and you can do that by gathering resources from stones, wood, all that good stuff, gathering food, placing down buildings, and you know, assigning workers and that kind of thing. With a little twist, you're running around. There's lots of jumping and platforming. You can pick up almost anything in the game. So if you want to help out your current lumberjacks in chopping down wood, you can go over to a tree and chop it down with your sword or some other tool if you want to. Or alternatively, you can just pick up the lumber yard and huck it at the goddamn tree, which is by far the fastest way to do it. And that's very funny. And I love that. I really like a lot of the movement tech here. There's like a regular sprint, but there's also this like super sprint that involves like drifting around, and there's like a
super
there's like a
long
high
jump stuff you can do.
There's a long jump. You can essentially do that kind of jump where you hop between two walls if you find the right kind of surface, which is a lot
You
of
can air dash
jumping in this game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What?
You can air dash.
It's a little janky, but it works.
I didn't
There's air
find
dash. There's regular
any of
dash.
this.
There's like a higher jump if you hold down space A button. I mean, lots of fun movement tech that I had a lot of fun with, and the character animations for the queen herself, I thought was really fun. It's very bouncy, and it really kind of adds to the satisfaction of that movement. The problem comes in that with city builders, RTS, whatever, that sort of thing, a lot of resource management, you have to explain your systems and how they work clearly, or else there's going to be a lot of head scratching and running around. I understand that for a lot of people, you don't want everything explained to you and you want to, discover things for yourself. I think for this kind of game, you really need to be clear about how things like
There's a reason they tend to have a lot of tutorials.
The controls were barely explained in this game.
That too, like there's a lack of just basic tutorial, and that's fair.
This is a game preview, but almost every early access game that I've played over the last couple of years has at least had a tutorial.
Yeah, this one feels like it really needs a control tutorial, bare minimum.
Bare minimum.
And I think kind of an extension of what you're talking about, why my biggest problem, and I'll say I actually had a really good time with this game. I think this is going to be really, really fun in a year. For me.
It sounds like an insult.
I mean, it sounds like an insult, but I did have a good time playing it. Like, I wasn't frustrated at any time. But once I started hitting a bigger kingdom size and, like, got into more of the game's systems, you run into things like, oh, things can attack your city. Like, that's a whole separate thing. But the game really doesn't explain how to deal with those attacks. Because what you're supposed to do is you build, like, you can build like halberdiers, and then you get posts that you can stick in that'll tell a halberdier to hang out over there. So eventually I got like a network of halberdiers set up around the edge of my kingdom. And that was cool to have them there. But at the same time, like, it's impossible to know if it's working. Like, at no point was it easy for me to check and see what was going on. Sometimes I just see like, oh, a warning in the bottom left of my screen saying someone is stressed out or someone is like getting attacked, and I'm like, I open the map trying to find it, and that doesn't really help.
Because in city builders and strategy games, when you get a little pop-up that says like, this person is under attack,
usually you can click on it.
You can click on it. There is no such option in this game. So when you are seeing that a bunch of your citizens,
I really wish when I opened my map, I could click on it and it would then take me to that person, right? So I could easily find them.
I don't know what the fuck to do.
It's especially because from what I can tell, like, this game really wants you to sprawl your city out. Like, I don't think it's meant to be you make things really tight together. Because a lot of stuff needs space. Like, your sawmills need fresh trees, which they're going to be competing with each other if you put them too close and stuff like that. And I think like a lot of these systems are really fun at their baseline, but there's just a real lack of information about most of it. Like, another problem is I put down like a blast furnace, basically, that uses wood and minerals to make metal. Great, I can make metal stuff. The problem is the blast furnace tells me like what amount of wood it uses every time and what amount of fuel it needs. But the thing I use to make fuel doesn't tell me how much fuel it's making. And the thing I use when I put a sawmill down, the sawmill doesn't tell you like what its rate of production is, because I think they just go and break the trees down. But that means I just have a big negative on my screen the whole time of it going like, oh, you're losing trees, but I'm not actually losing trees. It just seems like I am, but they're being used and they're still being gotten. So it's really hard to read and like to know what's going on. One was like, there's a resource shortage, and then it went away, and I didn't do anything, so I don't know what happened.
What?
It also doesn't tell you if you have injured citizens. It doesn't tell you that you have to walk over to them, and then hold right trigger, which is the healing button, which is another thing they don't tell you, is that you can just heal on the spot without potions.
Yep.
I thought I needed to craft potions or something. But no, you can just hit right trigger and it uses your stamina to heal you back up. And you just walk over to a citizen, heal, and it heals them of whatever they're injured with. It doesn't tell you anywhere. So
and the other thing it doesn't tell you, Wyatt, you can open the map and place buildings from there instead of on foot. So you can do all of that in the map, so you don't have to run around and do it on foot. Game doesn't tell you that.
I have no qualms in telling you that there were a good deal of times where I just looked something up because I didn't know what was going on. And let me tell you something. This doesn't really say anything negatively against the game. I couldn't find jack shit information about this game online. You want to know how I figured out how to heal in the game? As someone who doesn't have TikTok on their phone, this makes me really sad. But I was like typing away on my computer. I had to look up this shitty text-to-speech TikTok video that explained how healing works. Because the game just doesn't explain it to you whatsoever. It's like there's a frustrating lack of information, and it's frustrating to me because I really want to be into this. I feel like I'm not a big city builder person, but I feel like a third person kind of action city builder, especially with how nice the art style is, and again how nice the animations are.
It's got
a lot of like it's got some slick animations, and I feel like I could really get into this. Like I said, with every genre, I feel like there's a point where you can kind of break into it. You know, Alex had that with Souls-likes a few years ago. I had that with like space combat games and stuff. You find one that you like, and it helps you appreciate the rest of the genre. I feel like this could be that for me, but it's just not there in terms of explaining all of these things to you. And again, it's just frustrating because I really wanted to like it, and I do want to stick with it, but I don't know how much my body can take. I don't want to raise my blood pressure too high when I play this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think overall I really enjoyed the like concepts of this game, but I think I need it to cook a little longer.
It's raw. It's a little too raw.
It's got a soggy bottom right now, and it needs to be cooked a little more. So I think
it's molten in the middle.
Crisp it up.
Yeah, because I am a huge like city builder fan. I play tons of them. I think a lot of the most elegant city builders, like Against the Storm, have good tutorials at the start and keep things relatively simple. And right now, this is not super simple and easy to understand from the like an information clarity perspective. The mechanics are not too complicated. It's just that there's no explanation of how to handle them. It's also like very unfinished. Like if you press the research menu, most of the things in the research menu are just not implemented, and they have like, will be implemented in summer 2025, right? Which is totally fine in early access, but it does mean that like playing this feels very unfinished, especially when like those things are present in the tree but not actually usable. Like I almost wish that they were just not there. So I wasn't like worried about them. Like, I don't need to think about that because it's not a thing that I can use right now. So it'll be a cool surprise when an update comes. And yeah, it feels like a lot of systems that I think just needs a little bit more oomph behind it and a little bit more clarity. And Wyatt, the dang boars.
Okay. Let's get into this a little bit. The only enemy that I've run into in the entire game are these fucking boars. They charge around, they completely ignore because they have two modes, kind of stomping at the ground and charging, right? They are very difficult because the hitboxes are so wonky to like dodge out of the way. They will not stop charging. They
also fight in packs, so there's like a pack of them that you're trying to dodge.
So you're screwed as soon as one shows up.
Anytime two enemies have two different angles on you, you're fucked and you have to run away. Basically, the hitboxes are just so janky, and the worst part is
you do very little damage.
You can get stun locked to a point where like one hits you and you fly backwards and you're on the ground, and then 2 more charge over you and that still damages you, and then you're dead and you don't even get a chance to
because they
fight.
do like a third to a fourth of your health every time you get hit. So it's a big chunk of damage. Yeah,
it's
they were very frustrating. I found fighting the human enemies. This is like bandit camps that you can go find. That was totally fine because they're not like dashing all over the place. I liked fighting the bandit camps. I like that you can see them on the map as well. So if you open your map and you see like a little camp icon with a bunch of like hooded figures around it, that's a bandit camp, and you can go fight them. That was cool.
I feel like I might have liked this game more if I found any of the combat.
Yeah. It's not particularly in-depth. Like, there's no additional mechanics in combat.
But aside from that, it was just city building, which I do not enjoy.
I love me a city build. Good city building is the best.
The city builder stuff was neat. I liked dealing with all of that. Again, it was frustrating because I felt like I didn't fully grasp what was going on, and the game just refuses to tell you or give you hints or anything. So it was hard to get into that stuff, even though
it's also like I'm missing an end goal, because this one feels like there should be goals to hit, and more so than other city builders, where I think there's usually the goal is make your city as big as possible. I think this has like a full parkour system and a full combat system. Like, I kind of want there to be a cool thing where I'm like, oh, I need to build my city up so I can go raid an enemy castle or something, or I have to go into a dungeon and do a cool parkour challenge to like unlock a thing for my city. Because right now it's like the parkour stuff is super cool, but really doesn't do anything. Like, it doesn't really fit with the rest of the game. As much as I like it, it's like I kind of wish there's a wall jump. Why? Really at what point am I ever going to use the wall jump?
Can you do like build verticality? Can you make buildings taller than they are? Or
not that I've seen. There's been a lot of buildings that are just like standard sizing. I'm gonna assume that you can modify things. I think I just unlocked like castle bricks and whatnot, so I think I can place those down to build like custom builds.
There is a shovel where you can flatten an area, and the way it was described was like, oh, you flatten a piece of ground in order to gain, I think it was granite, which you can then use to like build up a block somewhere else. But I could never get it to actually place a block anywhere. So I have no idea how that's supposed to work.
Yeah, just like a system that has no tutorial and is a little confusing. So
yeah.
I hope this game gets the love it deserves, because I do think there's a lot of really cool stuff here. And I think if they can get this to a point where that parkour and the city building stuff matter and are really fun together, it's going to be in a really good spot. But as of right now, it doesn't feel that challenging. It feels a little confusing. Like, I just looked earlier at my village's happiness and it was at -49, and I have no idea why. There's no warnings anywhere. There's
one thing I
nothing
did
that
was
seems
I
to
set up
be
a theater that helped with sadness for like 2 seconds, and then everyone was back to being super depressed again.
So I just don't know what's going on. I feel like a morality system, or not morality, but like a morale system is maybe not the fit for this. Like, it feels kind of unnecessary, but who knows?
I definitely feel like, well, you know, I might come back to this in 6 to 12 months or whatever, see what's going on. And I'd love to do another video kind of more dedicated to it once it's kind of developed a little bit more, because I like you, I'm definitely into it conceptually, and I want to keep my eye on it, but I'm playing too many things.
It's in my wait for release bucket, where I'm like, this is a really cool idea, but I need to see it like fully realized for me to really get it. Okay. Alex, any other thoughts about Overthrown?
I
vanished into the ether.
I don't like I've not an enjoyer of like city building or RTS aspects. I definitely don't not like this as much as I didn't like Rogue Trader.
So Rogue Trader you really didn't like, and this one just kind of like, not for me.
Not for me. Indifference, or much more along the lines of seeing the very it's seeing that it's in its very early stages. I feel like I feel like this is a few steps away from when Enshrouded first released.
Yeah, I get that comparison. It's just kind of missing a little bit of something.
I definitely see that.
All right. Wyatt, what is your next game?
Well, Ryan thinks he's pinned me on what exactly I'm going to pick. Well, joke's on you. My pick is League of Legends. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
God.
I was really concerned for a second. Not for me, for your own mental health.
No.
Christ, Wyatt.
No. I'm kidding. It's South of Midnight. All right. I've already clocked in like 5 hours in this game. I'm loving it. And I want everyone else to
That's exactly why I picked Blueprints.
to enjoy it as well, and I'd love to talk about it with y'all, and I'll probably have the whole thing finished by the time we talk about it, which will be cool.
I'm very excited to play South of Midnight. It looks so cool.
Feels right up my alley.
I think we're all going to be down with the story. We'll see how people feel about the combat.
All right. Well, that's it for our games that we're talking about, which means we're over to shout-outs now. So who's got something they want to shout out?
Shout out to the score in South of Midnight. It is very out there. It's got full-on vocals, which you don't normally hear for narrative-driven like linear action stuff.
That's
definitely
cool.
has that kind of southern twang to it, lots of banjos and stuff, and it sounds wonderful.
All right, I'll go next. I got this SNAA God's Guardian Gawain model kit because there's a company that is doing model kits for big robots that are inspired by the Knights of the Round Table. And that's cool. So I've got 2 of them.
That's pretty cool.
Gawain's got like big wings of light. It's very fun. And they're really cool, unique designs. They don't look like a Gundam, which I like.
Ooh.
All right, Alex.
Sorry, I keep yawning the second you say my name.
Pavlovian.
I could go for some Pavlova. Shout out to having a game again that makes you want to write down notes in a notebook for puzzle solving.
Fair warning, Wyatt. My notes for Blueprints are maybe 10 to 20 pages long.
Oh dear God, no.
How did you describe it? It makes you feel like Pepe Sylvia?
Yeah, I was having a Pepe Sylvia moment.
Oh no.
And it came together. Look, I found like 8 hidden messages. It's great. We'll talk about it next month.
Why the fuck are you psychopaths doing this to me?
Because it's really good. All right.
Because it scored a 90, Wyatt. I got 20 points from
that. It's like the highest rated game of the year.
Man, I'm getting so fucked on Fantasy Critic right now. I can't even.
Look, the second half of the year is most of our stuff, regardless. So there's going to be some big swings, I think. That Switch 2's got a release. All right.
I mean, supposedly. Maybe.
We'll be back next week with more games and fun things. Look forward to the next round of Game Pass games in a month or so, probably a little bit longer. And then all of that jazz. Tuesdays, podcast platform of your choice, YouTube and Twitch. See you next time.
Hopefully I'll be less sick by the time we all reconvene. Kind of over it already. It's been like a day.
Yeah.